So we're going to start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to season 2 of Pronoun TV and the Stephanie Stevens Show. Today, it's very exciting. All the way from Las Vegas, Nevada, we have an entertainer, Miss Sage Summers, and her partner, William Henry. And they're going to talk to us today about their story, how they met, and we're going to talk a lot about politics and about where real life begins with the LGBTQ2 spirit pronoun community. I'm trying to say it all in one. There's so much added on to these things these days that we try to get it right here, because we want people to have a very clear understanding of how people identify, and we want to respect that. So today on the show, I want to just say welcome, William Henry.
Either way is fine. Either way is
okay, okay. William Henry Liam and Sage Summers. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having us today.
Now, William, you are from Indianapolis.
I sure am.
Actually, we are both in Indianapolis
right now.
We're
really?
Yeah, I moved here from Vegas, so my Facebook profile still says Vegas, but we live and work in Indy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, it's probably much more economical for you to be living in Indianapolis. I mean, Las Vegas.
Economical, social,
yeah,
which we'll catch on later.
I understand. Now, Sage, how long have you been performing? You say you're a veteran.
I am. As a matter of fact, September 3rd of this year, 2023, I'll celebrate 25 years as an entertainer.
Okay. And William, you are a nurse, right?
I am a baccalaureate prepared registered nurse.
And Sage, you are also going to school?
Yes, I am. I'm in school for social work.
Okay, oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Now, let's talk a little bit about Sage. When I first messaged you, I think I messaged you last year about being on the show, and I think you were too busy or we didn't get a response. I can't remember what she wrote, what was the whole thing here.
Sounds about right.
But now that we have you on the show, let's talk about your you said that you and William were not compatible. You said you guys were friends at first, and it just no spark there.
Do you want to tell this, or you want me to tell it?
I can start. So early on, I actually ended up meeting Sage by being one of those people in the drag club with their cousin for their bachelorette party. And for a long time, I struggled with my gender identity. And I grew up in a very country household, in a very country school system. And I just didn't have the verbiage for myself. I didn't know what it was. And so the moment my cousins brought me into Talbot Street, a formal, very big drag bar in Indianapolis, I knew I belonged. And so my cousins literally had to drag me out my closing time and started just kind of coming on every other weekend. And then the girls welcomed me into the home. Meaning by girls, we have Victoria St. James, Asia LaBouche, Miss Coco Van Cartier, and Sage were our regulars in the back. And so I started helping out that way and worked with her for years at Talbot until we closed down and maintained a friendship and, would support her going up to her dreams for Continental. And then, kind of life just kind of got away from us. And we both were in partnerships at varying times where it just didn't match, or I was in my journey in my own way, and then she was in hers. But somehow, some way down the line, 10 years later, we're here. And it is an honor.
Well, that's a wonderful story. Now, I have to ask this. I hate asking this because it just seems so awkward to me to be asking, but what are your pronouns?
Oh, he, him. I do go by
Okay.
he, him. I have been medically transitioning, thankfully, to this one because she actually put my doctor's number in my phone on an off day at work when I couldn't find anybody in Indiana to give me my HRT to start my medical transition. She
Mhm.
put my doctor's number in the phone, and then therefore later that week I was able to start hormones. And I believe I started in 2015, the year after I graduated with my BSN.
Okay. So, William, were you born female?
Yes, I am biologically born female but present male, he, him, and
Okay.
have since, well, actually before I was taking testosterone supplements, and Minnie and Indy just were like, oh, I thought you were a cute little gay boy that just
No.
couldn't grow facial hair. So I actually presented for a couple years prior to actually getting to start hormone replacement therapy.
Okay. And Sage, you were born male.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you know, a lot of people, I've had this conversation. I actually have another couple coming on the show for season 2 as well, talking about the sexual the identity of how a person identifies, and then going through some of the surgeries or becoming the person that they are or who they were meant to be. Now, let's talk about how once you met Sage and once you knew William was a she, how did you
We met as
Yeah. Actually, when we met, William had not transitioned. I met
I didn't
William
come out.
as the birth gender. And
oh,
from my perspective, is
Can you tell the story about what I was wearing and what your thought process was?
oh god, no, I cannot. But I will say that when he came into the dressing room and he looked distraught that day and he couldn't get anyone to give him his information, I already had a hormone doctor and I just could not figure out for the life of me why no one would help him. So I gave him the number and he started his journey. I didn't know that it would come full circle like this 10 years later. I was just helping a friend,
Now 11.
you know, and I cannot state enough, this was a very beautiful individual beforehand. So there was no thought of that. This was just my friend at the time that I was helping. And yeah, here we are all these years later, and I kind of paid it forward.
Yeah, your best investment.
Actually, my best investment.
well, you know, that's a wonderful story. Now, I mean, there, of course, I'm sure there's some challenges along the way, and I'm sure you both have had them. I mean, you know, it's. I mean, we'll talk about the challenges of where the world is now later on, but let's go back to now. Once you realized, Sage, that you and William were going to be a couple, what was the first night like when you were intimate? I would think. I mean, intimacy is a very
Intimacy is a
personal thing.
It's very important. So
that's very important.
very important.
I'm gonna let her help that one.
With that being said, in the realm of challenges, we are very open and honest with each other. There's no way a relationship can proceed successfully without that honesty. So in that honesty, we embrace early on the two spirit sides of both of us.
That's what we like it to call.
You know, we don't have gender roles in our relationship. Everybody does everything. You know, he is equal parts male and female depending on the situation and time, and I as well. And at the strangest times, those roles reverse when needed. I become very protective of him without even knowing, and he vice versa, you know. But that very first night, because I am very forward, I want to say direct. Our sexual identities have always met beautifully because I understand who I am, he understands who he is, and our genitalia meet. You know, I am able to work with him very comfortably.
Okay.
And he worked with me very comfortably. So there was no debate. I loved I love the duality of things, and he does as well. We have a saying, I have my mother's features and my father's fixtures.
Oh.
He's got his father's features and his mother's fixtures, and we work well in the kitchen together.
Now,
in like a vice versa, like just a short add on to that, it's in what I like to call LGBTQ plus community, I like to call our community. You have those roles of, you got your top, you got your verse, you got your bottom, and you respect those, and you own those. And when you're comfortable in knowing your sexuality versus your gender identity, it's kind of very easy to just fall into that comfortable, like, oh, we do fit well together.
Now, Liam, when I was looking at the pictures, me and the agent was looking at the pictures, we actually didn't know you were female. The reason I asked you that is because
Sorry, we got 2 kids.
Now I'm talking to you, I thought, wait a minute. So I kind of picked up on it here. So she's sitting there looking at me going, he's more female.
If you guys go a little deeper, there is an album you can see well back in the day on my Facebook.
Oh, I tried not to dig too deep because we wanted the show to be unscripted. So this is amazing. The fact that you, William, was born female, biological, and you now identify as male, and Sage, you were born male and you now identify as female. And this is great. And of course, we have a show entertainer, and we have a nurse. And the two of them are trying to put their lives together. And you've already gotten past the intimacy part, which is a very big part in any real relationship. And the fact that William already said that he's very supportive of you, of doing your entertainment and being there for you. Now, Sage, I'm sure you come from a Christian background. Well, you probably both do.
Well,
I do.
He does.
Oh, okay.
I was very fortunate in my upbringing that my mom never pushed any form of religion, either way, shape, form, or fashion. She wanted her kids to make their own decision when it came to organized religion. And because of that, I was able to grow into who I was without the religion factor, because religion tends, in my opinion, to either help people greatly or hinder people greatly. It's a lot to take on. So when we got together, we realized that even though he came from a Christian upbringing, we're both more spiritual than we are Christian or any other denomination, just because religion can be a lot and it can be divisive sometimes.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask a personal question. You don't have to answer it, but I think that it'll be interesting for people to understand it. Now, I'm going to try to word it right. Now, Sage, when you and William are intimate together, William, are you still able to have children?
Actually, yes and no. After starting hormones, I no longer have a normal, what a cis-born female would have as menstruation. And it is capable. No, I have not had a hysterectomy, but it would be an act of miracle, to be frank. And honestly, we've had the discussion, and as somebody raised in a Christian household, I would not deny a blessing, because I care about her very much, and I think we would make a wonderful family. And yes, it is hard when you present masculine, but it's not been done before in that same sense. But I have, and as she has, been on hormone replacement for a very long time. So, as a lot of trans individuals know, or some early upcoming individuals might not know, if you don't harvest your eggs or you don't harvest your sperm, your chances greatly diminish, especially along with age.
Mhm. Now, let's talk about you, Sage, for just a minute as a show entertainer living in Indianapolis.
Mhm.
Well, it's probably more important for you now that you have William's support, that you're going to school. So that's probably more and you're from your familiar background, so you can always, hustle a dollar or two off of Talbot Street, like he said. And the school thing. Now, do the people at the school know you're trans, Sage, or they just think you're a woman? I mean, I know you identify as a woman, but sometimes when we go out in public, things can be a little different.
Well, I will start with saying that who I am is who I am. I don't hide anything. There is no daytime voice, no me, none of that. You're gonna get what you're gonna get.
Okay.
So in school, I am the exact same person as I am when I walk through life, as I am right now. There is no hiding of anything. With that being said, in class, most of the students and teachers are very much aware of who and what I am. I think it's very important that I not hide. Our community has spent decades hiding, and time's up for hiding. I'm going to get an education as a trans woman. I work every day as a trans woman. I'm a law-abiding, society-contributing citizen as a trans woman. There is no hiding.
Well, that's wonderful. This is something that the world needs to see. They don't get to see this too often, and mainly with your relationship with William. Now, William, I want to ask another tough question because I think that it's really important to ask these things so people can understand it. They're coming from people that live these lives every day. Now, what do your parents think when you bring Sage home? What did they think when you brought her home?
They like her better than me.
Oh.
Okay, so to be frank, my mom for the longest time was like, when are you going to take me out to the club so I can see my girlfriend and my girlfriend meeting her? So my mom actually apparently knew well along the lines before I ever did. So my mom and dad love her. Actually, we had a family Christmas. She was unfortunately, at the show, but we had a little short family get together. And when I walked in, every single one of my family members like, where's Sage? And I was like, you know what? Hi, everybody. I love you too.
Now, let's talk about you on your job, Sage. Now, when you were, William, when you were transitioning, were you female before you started your job, or you were male? You were dressing as a man.
So I am very, 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 very unapologetically me, just as she is. And so I had a very interesting transition because I wanted to graduate with a degree I knew that could take me anywhere in this world, and that would be always needed. So I held off my transition, even though I knew who I was, to get that for myself. And actually, the year before I graduated, I started as an intern with the Indianapolis VA, where I stayed for 10 years, worked the COVID care unit, but also started my transition there. So I was female starting out with a bunch of predominantly male, very right-wing conservative Fox News on every television. But amazingly, those veterans were some of the kindest and most supportive. Now, not always some of the employees, but the patients themselves, because of the brotherhood they created within the military, because of, thankfully, the revocation of a don't ask, don't tell, and that little kind of mindset that they kind of want to go back to it. These men worked alongside every individual like us. And they respect us because they know I'm there to care for them, just as they were to care for our country. But after COVID care, I was a little burnt out. So I stepped back for a little bit, did a little short stint at IU Health Home Hospice because that was actually where I started, was oncology and hospice care. And then finally was afforded my wonderful job opportunity, which I adore. I actually work for Indianapolis's largest social organization for HIV and AIDS, known as the Damien Center in Indy. And I'm one of our 4 set clinical registered nurses that take care of our population that a lot of individuals in the city would otherwise overlook. We provide HIV care, STD care, PrEP care, PEP care, now HRT care. And I found that our clients are so appreciative, and it's just a valuable work. And it wouldn't be without folks contributing to our organization and helping us out so we can provide that care where otherwise people are turned away. So my passion has just always been making sure those that are often overlooked, make sure they feel just as respected and taken care of as any other human being in this country should.
Okay, one more question for you, William, and on a serious note as well. I know it's leading more serious, but I think that these are important issues and things that we should understand. Now, how do the doctors treat you? Have you met any doctors that knew you when you were, who you were born as, and then as you transition, how do they treat you, the doctors? Because doctors can be shaky.
Right. You mean for me personally, or working alongside them, or both?
Well, I think that doctors think that they're very professional people in a real serious situation, and then of course they met you as who you were like you said, when you graduated, and now you're different. How do some of them, or they just don't care?
Honestly, I have an extremely hard work ethic, and that comes from a very deep family supportive background. And I always let my work speak for myself, and never once, especially even at the VA, surprisingly, did I have a doctor disrespect me because they cared so much about how I was as a nurse.
Oh, okay.
And then same vice versa within where I'm working now. Most of us are of our community, which is a blessing. And we get to provide that care together and get to be that, we worked hard for our degrees. We busted that so we could be there for those that didn't get that care. So thankfully, only time I really ever ran issue in the past being a registered nurse and being of our community is that I did do a job interview up in a little bit wealthier part of Indiana, and I did 2 interviews, and after the in-person interview, the poor manager was almost in tears apologizing for denying me the job, though they had no other interviewee. And her excuse was that I was too empathetic. And I was like, ma'am, I'm pretty sure that's chart 1 on being a nurse, but I understand what you're saying. And so in hindsight, it was a blessing, but I feel I was too me in that sense of, of being us for those individuals. So I respected it.
Well, sometimes life is challenging, and it's wonderful that you are, you're pushing forward, and this is a good thing, pushing forward. Now, let's talk to you, Sage, about you being a show queen, a show entertainer. And do you miss Las Vegas?
Oh, terrible.
If I wasn't a ginger.
And he's treating you too. If he wasn't a ginger with his fair skin and red hair, I would be moving back to Vegas after I graduate. But because of the sun, I can go visit Vegas and come home to him.
We've agreed on a condo hustle.
Right.
We'll work hard for the money.
Well, even though I live in Canada, I'm originally from Florida. I was born in Orlando, and I grew up in Fort Lauderdale and Miami. And I've been in Canada now 35 years. But Florida would be a great place for the two of you. And as you as a nurse there, William, you could make a great living in Florida. You could make a great living. I know you might not be able to want to deal with them hurricanes and all that. But overall, Florida is beautiful. And
we actually just went for the first time for myself in 31 years. I never had been for my birthday last year. So that was exciting for me.
Yeah, Florida is a beautiful place, and it's clean, and it's.
Side note, I'd rather be in Canada.
Oh. You don't want to be. It's freezing here, and
that's all right. I can take the cold. She can wear blankets.
Oh. Now let's talk a little bit about what your guys' plans are for the future. What are you planning to do? Are you guys going to get married, or are you married now?
We well.
We ask on the regular.
You're actually, as of 2023, you are officially the 6th person to ask us that since the
7,
new year.
because I got asked. I got asked another time, but without you.
We get asked often about marriage, and we are very much in love with each other. But we're going to wait till the time is right, and you'll know when it's right.
Why rush a good thing?
Exactly.
No, a ring on a finger is wonderful, but it's a tradition. It is just a tradition that is obviously symbolically represented, obviously, in a very religious aspect. My love for her does not change with a ring on that finger or not.
Now, can I just say this? I want to talk a little bit about your experience going into our bars, our community. You as a couple. Sage, when you introduce William to your friends, what do they think?
Well, the funny thing about it is that he was already a part of the community before. So there was really no need to introduce him. The shock came when people actually realized that we were together. That was the shock, because they didn't see us. They didn't see us coming together. And truth be told, we didn't either. It just happened. Honestly, it literally came out of the clear blue. He was bringing me home one night so I wouldn't have to call an Uber. And we were coming up the road, and I went the wrong way. He did go the wrong way
because I thought she still lived where she used to live.
We were coming up the road, and I just happened to look over to my left and look at him for the first time, and it just hit me. Oh, wait a minute, he is kind of cute. I never looked at him through that lens until that night, that very moment. And so as much of a surprise as it was for the community, it was a surprise for us as well. And it just kind of flowed naturally from that point.
I like the way you said that. The way you said it was incredible, because it really connected the two of you. I can see that the two of you are very smart people, and I like that. I like smart people. I mean, she's an older white lady, and she's very smart, but she hates being on camera, and I try to drag her over here, so she's like not having it. But I like smart people. That the way you've talked today means that you have dealt with a lot of the adversity in a positive manner and just kept it moving. And this is something our community should understand, that we have to live our lives and just keep it moving. We have to face adversity, of course, but we have to face it head on. We can't be hiding anymore. And the fact that the two of you I can look at you and see that both of you are very comfortable in your skins and who you are. And this has made a great impact on me. Just looking at you, I would never know that either William, you weren't born male, or Sage, you weren't born female, because you look, like a normal, what they call a normal family. Now, let's talk a little bit about the government in the US. Let's talk a little bit about that clown show that's going on in that House of Representatives with all these different, they're trying, Sage, you as an entertainer, it really must affect you with all the negative stuff that they're saying about trans people and drag queens.
You know what? I find it comical, honestly. It kind of makes our government look a little jokish, because when you look at the situation as a whole, you realize that it has nothing to do with what they're pushing it to be. There's nothing to do with gay this or queens that or kids that. It has nothing to do with that at all. If that was the case, we wouldn't have had such successful movies as Tootsie or To Wong Fu or
Some
TV
Like It
shows.
Hot.
TV shows like Bosom Buddies. We would never have had those shows. This isn't new. People dressed in drag and performing has never been new. You know, it's here. It's been here. So that shows you that that's not the issue. Now the question is, what is the real issue? What is the real agenda? What's going on?
Well, you know, it's a good thing that to me, there's two things I'm gonna address you now, Sage, about this, because I think that it needs to be said. RuPaul, who has the biggest drag show on television now, and yet she hasn't stepped up to defend the drag queens for Storybook Hour or the trans community where she comes from, Atlanta. And the fact that the young kids who have won these shows and gone on to make lots of money, and a lot of the few that have made millions of dollars, you don't see them speaking up about any of these issues. And this is something that's very concerning. You still see the old guard, meaning the older queens, still stepping up to protect the community and stand up for their rights. Now, why do you think that is?
Well, it all comes down to a dollar.
Yeah.
There's so much to
Capitalism.
lose. There's so much to lose. Most of these entertainers are, you know, bless their hearts, they're making more money than they ever anticipated in making. And they're making the best decisions for themselves because everyone has to put food on the table. Everyone has to build a future. So I cannot go forward without understanding and respecting that they are doing what's best for their own lives. You know, charity starts at home. You have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. So with that being said, those girls are doing what they're supposed to do to secure their own lives. Now, the reason that we have, by the grace of God, still the old guard is because these people have, these entertainers have paved the way. They know the fight. They understand the cost, and they're willing to pay it. But they were also never afforded the opportunity to make the money like these entertainers today do. You know, this is what they know, and by the grace of God, we have them and are able to rely on them because they stay at the forefront to fight. They yell when nobody else yells. When everyone wants us to be silent, our community guard, as I would call them, are still there.
Wonderful. Well, you know, that's wonderful. I wanted to say that because, you know, me being on the internet so much and trying to, our mailboxes is full every day with people wanting to share their stories and talk about the stories. But she made it really clear to me the direction we're going to take Pronoun TV in. And it needs to be about real life and real stories and what's happening now and what we have to do to make sure that we're going to be okay in the future, to make sure that our voice is being loud and heard. Because now we're getting this thing here, this thing online about Black men. And I'm gonna say it to you, William, as a man, as you identify as a man now, and then you, Sage, as you know, as a Black woman. This masculine and feminine thing has really taken over the internet about men on the DL and this masculine feminine thing. What do you feel about that?
So at the end of the day, I feel like gender is always going to be a spectrum. I'm going to respect you however you want to present. I don't agree with hypermasculinity because I think it's toxic, nor do I agree with hyper femininity because I feel like it's also toxic because I feel like those extremes have been ingrained in their families at some point,
Mhm.
where a hyper femininity might mean I'm willing to forego it all to just rely on a man to take care of me, or that type of toxic hyper masculinity being a, well, I am better than you because I am almighty man. And it's hard when you know it is a spectrum, and it's where can we go from here to decide it's okay as a man to show emotion, have emotion, express emotion, to where you don't get to the point where we get shootings and mental health needs like that, which is often in this country predominantly Caucasian males. And then in the same spectrum of females, stand up for yourself. Because when you were called into the workforce as Rosie the Riveter and asked to go back home, not every woman went back home and they took charge and took lead. There is always a good in between, and we just got to find that ground.
Mhm.
When it comes to
Now,
the thing, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. When it comes to the DL thing, coming from the African American community,
because I won't deal with it.
I've always felt like, and I've dealt with my share of DL men. Of course, I have. You know, most girls in my situation at some point do, and
mhm,
those who don't are either really lucky or lying. But
mhm.
with that being said, when it comes to DL men, it's not always about the lie. That's the misconception about DL men. It's not about the lie always. Oftentimes, these men are not even allowed to be in safe spaces where they can be who they are for fear of being vilified by their community, meaning the African American community.
And
You
their
have
family.
men that would proudly walk in the day with the people that they love, but what do they lose? They'll lose their family, the respect
Their
of their
friend, their
friends
brother.
and
They
their
create.
community. You know, so it's a very hard road for oftentimes a DL man to walk. You know, not to excuse their behavior,
Right.
but to give some understanding, because I've known more than my fair share of DL men who always have spoken about what they stood to lose. And they just don't want to lose their families. They don't want to lose their kids or even the respect of their parents, most importantly, you know. So
Mhm.
And not to cut either of you off, like I have actually had this conversation with her. I've had African American DL men approach me on a multitude of occasions because they'll start the question because they're very good at clocking because I'm a little bit shorter. And so sometimes they'll be sometimes they'll be like, are you one of those boys? And I go, what do you mean one of those boys? And they go, and I go, I am, but I appreciate it and I'm not interested. And it's hard road to toe because I respect that that's something they want and are used to somebody who has maybe my genitalia, but it's a hard road to toe because, like I said, I don't like to deal with it because I don't want you to live in shame and fear. That makes me feel guilty for you feeling like you have to be DL because of the way you were raised and the community in which you were raised.
Mhm. I want to say this conversation was very interesting today. You guys are an amazing couple, and I am really glad that we didn't follow the script today. And she's glad too that we didn't follow the script today. And you guys are amazing. I want to say thank you, William Henry and Sage Summers, for being on the show today. You educated us a lot. And I want to say to the audience out there, I want to just say, live your life. Live your life. Be who you want. Be who you are and just live it every day loudly and proudly. That's the only way you can get the respect that you want, is to constantly make sure that people respect you and you respect them, and you just keep it moving. And William Henry and Sage Summers, I want to say thank you guys so much for doing the show today. You educated us a lot. Congratulations, William, on just being who you are.
Thank
And
you.
Sage, you for, you know, accepting William for who he is and understanding where your relationship is. And I like the fact that
Don't let that face fool you. He's pushing.
and the fact that you guys communicate. This is an amazing thing. Communication is key to any relationship. And the fact that you're open and honest with each other. And I like that. I like strong, smart.
Experience and age, it comes with it. Because sometimes life throws some things at your way you don't expect, and you learn and you grow.
There you go.
Like
Now,
I said,
I want to say
our love can't overcome.
I'm
There's no
glad,
argument that can.
I'm glad that the two of you talk everything out, and you talk with sense, and the fact that you, Sage, are getting an education now, because you know down the road there's going to be some challenges with drag.
Right.
Some real challenges if they keep pushing this stuff through. We can't go out and do shows like we used to. I mean, how can we can barely afford to make a living with a lot of the entertainers. I mean, they're lucky that they're making the money that they're making these days, but soon they're going to have to hire people like celebrities do to protect them. And in the long run, is all of this going to be worth it? And how do we, get people on the same page as us when it comes to entertainment, and understanding that this is just entertainment. It's just like, I'm a stand-up comedian. For years here in Canada, they silenced me. They because they said that I was filling the rooms up, but they were complaining so much that I had a filthy mouth or this and that. And at the end of the day, I've been here 35 years and I'm still working, and now I own a company. So I am just lucky.
They said curse words just are make a colorful vocabulary, and highly intelligent people know them. That's a scientific fact.
So I want to say thank you guys so much for doing the show today. And once it
I have a question for you, Stephanie. When are you going to pack up and come do a Pronoun TV show live from Indianapolis?
Come see us.
We can do that in the summer. When is the summer there?
It's the same as most places. It's basically June through end of August.
Well, why don't we talk about that?
Come party with us. Come party with us.
We will talk about that. We'll come right on down there. I like that. I like that. Look at you.
We have a couple other couples that are very interesting that I think you would enjoy talking to.
And we talked about you to them. So, and they have entirely different dynamics than we do that you will love.
Wonderful. Well, you know what? I promise I will reach out to you and we will do it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for being on the show today. Thank you everyone out there in the world of television and the internet. Take care of yourselves, be safe, be smart, and just keep it moving. And remember, be who you are and be loud and proud. Thank you so much, William Henry and Sage Summers, today on Pronoun TV and the Stephanie Stevens Show. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
That was great.